Quickly respond to some of the time is spent. Now, the first question from Professor Sonny has to do with fundraising, and that really most of these funding agencies, they usually ask for counterpart, funding, from institutions. I mean, you want to get a grant of maybe, let's say, $100,000, and they're asking for counterpart funding of about $10,000, and the university may say that they don't have, that will be able. But again, the experience from Ibadan, which we gained through Makati, showed clearly that we do not even know how to cost research. We don't know. We had to go to California, this research management office, where they lectured us. When you get your research grant from outside, do you cost electricity? Do you cost the space? Do you cost your time? We tend to overlook. So they have to take us through the template of costing. You will find that what you will be contributing, not necessarily directly dollars, but in kind, they will also cost it. And it is part of the research money. And you find that you may be contributing more than 10%. And then they are satisfied. So, in other words, don't let us be naive when we are costing, to be concentrating only on, on the project, without costing the surrounding infrastructural support, your own time. All this money is part of proposal writing, because in every proposal writing, you have the budget section. That budget section is another training entirely. In UI, they came almost 3-4 times to train us on how to write, budget for funding agencies. Then another section in it is that that every institution, nobody now gives grant to individuals, as I mentioned. Every grant now, they want institutional guarantee. That is, every proposal will pass through the Vice Chancellor. There is a column he must sign. That was based on experience. Before, some of them were dealing with individuals. I remember at the early part of my VCC, I got a letter saying, sir, we have been trying to get in contact with you, so. We get into some research grant. He has not submitted the report. This and that. I said, well, what's my own concern? You didn't inform us. It was between you. Go ahead. The university had, although I said that to them, they got the message. Now, no agencies, somewhere in their form now, institutional guarantee, the VC will sign. So if there is any point, but of course, the institution coming in has implication. You can now ask for administrative charge. And administrative charge varies. I don't know how much FUNAB is charging, but in UI it's 10%. But again, I can assure you, while some will pay the 10%, the funding agencies too are clever. They negotiate and say, 5%, 10% is too high, this and that. Please, can you lower it? So there are times when in other words, you treat every proposal in its own merit. I've been had cases where I even gave 0% because of the nature, because they were going to bring in some money almost as scholarship to some of the, and I felt, why should I tax something that you even commit directly to us? And so we're able to waive it. But by and large, there is even the 10% administrative charge that most funding agencies. But if you don't ask, they just keep quiet. Then you ask them, funding. So in other words, if you do your budget correctly and so on, all these counterparts something will come in kind, and then you'll be able to get that. But if you don't put it there, if you just say it's $100,000 and you are not taking care of your own time, the facility you will use, all these things, and they are now asking you for 10%, then surely you are the one who are the, should change yourself. It's important, training in budget aspect of proposal writing is very, very important. There are certain elements that must be there that people often overlook, which we should not. Then the second person, from industry, his experience as a lecturer in industry, academic in industry, now listening to payback. Of course, people in business, they are in business to make money. If you say the payback is 8 years, in an economy like Nigeria, where it is a cash and carry economy. I mean, people spend money today, tomorrow they are already reaping profit. Surely 8 years, I mean, will be regarded as being too long. In a stable economy, they can be ready for a business like that, but not in this unstable economy that we have in Nigeria. But if you look at the nitty-gritty of that calculation, you will find that what is contributing to it is what people have said, the infrastructural support, energy cost, because your paper bill is influenced by your cost of production. And your cost of production is influenced by the infrastructural support that you are getting. Most companies are spending, especially in the food industry. Some of those machines, they cannot afford to stop. They cannot do stop and go. That's why you find the like of Cadbury. They are on 100% self-generation. And of course, the cost is passed to the customer. Can you imagine Cadbury if power supply were to be taken for granted? The cost will go down. And they will be able to be competitive. That's why people are moving to Ghana and so on. Because the cost is, much lower. So 8 years surely for any businessman. It's too long for paper period. But when you look into the nitty-gritty, it's what we are still saying. Until we solve the energy problem, Nigeria will continue to witness the industrialization that's going on. Ghana is now gaining from our losses, in here, and I agree with him. Then another performance. Yes, I'm happy that somebody asked about that. What is happening in Zimbabwe? The Zimbabwean farmers are here in Nigeria. You see, now the question you then ask: are they going cross for export, or are they going things that we are also consuming? I think I've been reliably informed that most of their products enter our own economy. In other words, what they have brought in here is the expertise that they have brought in mainly, not like the type of Saudi Arabia where the market was already targeted to their side. But of course, it doesn't matter if they, because don't forget, Nigeria has, the market, population 160 million, a consuming economy where people consume a lot. Where are you stretching yourself to go outside? When Nigeria go outside to bring things in. So that's why they can afford to just be producing for our own economy. Because of the bet. Don't forget Ethiopia. What's the population of Ethiopia? What is their purchasing power? So that's why it's quite different. The Zimbabwean farmers coming in here, it's more or less transfer of technology, transfer of skills, to meet the market demand, the local, demand in here. Then my friend from Bauchi is talking about the industrial collapse. The role of university in solving the problem. Well, again, the university cannot, this is where, again, the triple L's. Government has, I told you the case of South Africa. Government realized that they wanted to develop the sectors, the key sectors. They selected the sector they wanted to develop. And then they were ready to put money in there to help the actors. Now, that type of thing is also happening. You'll be hearing the textile industry. I think government allocated some money to bring back the textile industry. But in all the calculations, they never look in the direction of skills acquisition. They never look in the direction of research, university. They thought it's just giving additional money to them. No, that's not the way to go. You have to bring the textile technology that's moved. And you have to also realize what I call the international espionage influencing our body. Why will it interest the Chinese that the textile industry in Nigeria should wake up? Should it be of interest to China? Of course not. They are the ones bringing most of the textiles and the Indians and people. So they too will make sure that your policy, that's why some of us feel uncomfortable. The way we receive with open arms all these foreign agencies influencing our policy. Because, as I said, they are to protect market. Nigeria is seen more as a market. And if it is a market, they want you to remain a market rather than just productive economies. So, but if you take a government to take that decision, to say, look, we are going to look at our local resources, local capabilities, develop where they don't exist, to be able to do. It can be done. One thing you can, that I found out from my own research, when we did evaluation of technology transfer for LNG, liquefied natural gas, part of the contract had technology capacity building, that they must build capacity of Nigerians to take over after 10 years. Now, when we did it, we are now looking at how are they programmed the 10-year takeover. we find that they were not honest with us. But one of them was honest to say, look, that the Nigerians they train by taking them to foreign plants for exposure, because we didn't have any LNG plant. They trained them, they brought them back, a crop of young graduates. That when they came back, the man who was in charge of now, further training, he said that he told them, well, this is the level we want to train you in this, we go to the next level. He was just showing them. The Nigerians kept quiet. Whenever the man was not around, they were already going to the next level, doing what they were not asked to do, but learning in the process. So, in no time, like what happened to me and my BSc, they started lecturing the man on the plant that he was supposed to come and take them. And the man told me that Nigerians are the most dangerous people I have never seen. That they learn so fast that before you know it, things you are supposed to be, they will turn around in no time. That the absorptive power is unbelievable. That he has trained people in India, he has trained people in Indonesia and so on. That he has never seen a group of people who are so fast, in absorbing technology and moving with it. So I now told him a joke that a pilot once told me that if the plane had problem and they were to fix it at the point of takeoff, that if we told Nigerians that, please, ladies and gentlemen, we are sorry, you have to come down for about 1 hour while we fix this plane. They will say, look, why should you come down? What does it? No. They will stay in there. But if we say, ladies and gentlemen, please, you have to remain on your seat for the next 1 hour as we reply to the remain. Why should I remain? Just open door for me. Just open door for me. You remain in here. That is the way you learn that. So our people are ready to learn. If government can just tap into this thing, if they just can just tap, just challenge them. Then fundraising. Somebody raised the question of fundraising. I think he was responding to the VC, saying somebody from South Africa. Fundraising at the University of Ibadan, we have professionalized it. In other words, we have an advancement office now, whose responsibility is to really raise funds. And of course, I'm sure you have a commanding number now of alumni and people who identify with your vision. But the only thing is, this is another issue I didn't discuss. That some of these units that we create in the university system, you at times having a dilemma. Should it be driven by academic, or should it be professionalized? There are some units that you just have to professionalize. Academic cannot give the time required to be able to move some units. And one of them is fundraising. You just like the one of I mentioned it, I'm sure Ilorin has professionalized it like Ibadan. We are professional. We brought professional, and they have to go through training. There are ways now they are training fundraisers for universities on the techniques of raising funds. And one of those techniques we use, at University of Ibadan during my time, never a day did we ever say fundraising like this and then come and no. What we did was what we call friend raising. We invite you for a dinner. We don't say that come and donate. No, they won't come. They will just say, oh, come and be educated on where the University of Ibadan is and what we are proposing to do without asking you for your money. And all I will do is I will come in there and just tell them, where is the University of Ibadan? What is our vision? Where do you want to go? And what are the sort of things that will take us there? And you allow them to eat your food and then go away. We did that, fundraising. You cannot believe it. The number of people that come back, hey, Prof. Banro, yeah, I'm happy that Ibadan is moving that. By the way, I'm interested in that, your program like this. We started getting, and some of them, one led to the contribution of 130 million. It was through fundraising. We didn't ask for a couple. But we were able to put out there, where are we going? And what are the needs? Without asking anybody passing plate round. EFCC will not allow people to give 130 million. So that is another technique we learned. That is, it is now raising fund now. It's already, there's a science to it now. It's not just, and we need to professionalize it. That is what one can say. Then, the fifth one, Professor Bile, presentation to be made. Yeah, actually, Dr. Adeyemi, who is in charge of this, I've already told him that I will make available both the paper as well as the slide, because the slides also contain things that are not in the paper, so that taking the two together, at least you get the message. I think I've promised him that I'm sure he will be able to take your this, and then this will be made available, to you. And the same thing, I will make sure that it's available. Then Professor, with infrastructural support of all activity, surely infrastructural support is key. I'm sure your Vice Chancellor, will probably tell you how much he's spending on sustaining power like this. Government budget now to university is what we call envelope. What government is giving us is envelope. It's not brown envelope. This one is white envelope. I'm sure when they call Vice Chancellor to Abuja for budget something, all you do is you just go and pray that when they now tell you, they announce it as if it is lottery something. They say, okay, FUNAP for the coming year, so billion. Take it or leave it. The only thing is they will make sure that it will pay for your salary, so that nobody will chase you out of the campus. But once they have paid the salary, what is left for capital? Oh, there's nothing to write to me about. And that is a big, big problem. Because all it means is that in the university system now, we are no longer budgeting. We are no longer budgeting. And the reason for that, I had a slide which I used to show people, that some years back, they will ask each university to come with the budget. You do your budget, you submit to AUC. AUC will harmonize all the budget, and the budget will now be submitted to the budget office. And then they will look and then decide what to give. By the time we plotted the difference between what university asked for and what government gave, the shortfall was so embarrassing to them. So what did they do? They said, no, don't bring your budget again. That was the end. Almost for the past 5 years. They said, don't bring your budget. We will tell you what we give you. Because they saw that trend, and and of course the question you ask, how does the university fund the shortfall? If FUNAB is having shortfall of about 2-3 billion, can you get it from school fees? No. I even learned from your VC that you have accommodation for students. Now, when I did the analysis in Ibadan, when students of President Obasanjo asked students to pay 10,000 naira from the 90 naira they fixed 1970, and then now said 10,000. It was held let loose. Professor Ebida Kogwe, VC of UNILAG, nearly lost his life because of these 10,000. But what we did in UI, which is something again one will recommend. By that time, I was DVC admin to Professor Falashe. We are now advised